Welcome to Clear Table Talk. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Jessica Katanga, and today we are joined by a very special guest. Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Yinka. Or Dr. Yinka. I am a clinical psychologist and I'm Jessica's friend, so it's nice to be here.
Yes, so basically we always have these like very, very deep discussions.
Yeah.
Parked in the car for like hours. And we thought, you know what, let's just try and put the camera on and see how it goes. So today we're kind of talking about like being 20 something, wordism, and the anxieties and expectations that come with 20s and just transitions in general.
Yeah.
Our tolerance to uncertainty from like a psychological model. Choice points, that's another psychological model that we talk about in terms of knowing how you can move towards your goals or away from them, and how to
really develop a sense of self-awareness, being connected to your values and using them as a way to navigate this transitionary period.
So grab your cup of tea and let's get into the conversation. This is now we're in our late 20s. Yes, that's right.
Obviously, we don't look kids.
Yeah, we don't. No, I don't believe in that whole aging thing. I want to age.
I'm thinking back to like the weeks preceding my birthday.
Yeah.
I was in denial. I felt like I had actually really transitioned to like being in my late 20s. And it's, first of all, it didn't feel real because I felt like the pandemic stole 2 years of my life.
Speak about it.
So technically, I'm my age minus 2 years. But yeah, I think I had like mixed feelings because you reflect and you look back and you're grateful and you're thankful and you feel proud of yourself for all the different things you've achieved, all the different things you've overcome.
Yeah.
But also, there will inevitably be things that you have not yet achieved. I think we're also at that stage of life where our peers are all at different stages. Some people are having their third kids, some people are getting married, some people are getting engaged, some people are just starting uni. And I think it's a weird place to be in. You might be in a friendship group and everybody has like very, very different things going on.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's very easy for comparison and the feeling of not being good enough or not having done enough to creep in. So I think those are all the different things I was contending with.
Yeah.
If anything, the first quarter is the foundation for the rest of your life, and all you can ever do is continue to build upon it.
Yeah.
Who wants to peak in their late 20s?
That's very true. But then I feel like we put a lot of like deadlines as to like by 30. I don't know where this 30 bit came.
I don't know where it came
Millionaire by
from.
30, kids by 30, married by 30. Like,
it is a lot of pressure to put on to put on people whose brains only finish developing like
5 years ago.
Yeah, I do think some of those goals are arbitrary. Sometimes it is helpful to have an idea in your head of where you want to be by a certain time. I don't think it necessarily should be attached to an age because what is so significant about 30 that means you must be married or that you must have bought a house.
But then how do you know when you're like giving yourself grace and then when you're like kind of like, because they say with like goals it should be smart, right? And part of that is time specific. So is it not best to set a goal and for there to be a deadline?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But then must that deadline be attached to an age?
Is that not deadlines like times?
So it can, in 3 years' time, it's not because you want to have achieved X, Y, Z by 30. It's because you think that in 3 years it is going to be realistic, because that's the R. Like, it's going to be realistic for me to achieve this goal. Do you know what I mean?
That's, yeah. Realistic.
Yeah. Because...
and also specific as well, specific to you, your life. But more
not
time.
Not just this generic
thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we're comparing ourselves and putting our timelines as what our parents did when they lived in a completely different time.
Completely different century. Completely different
goals. Completely different priorities.
Yeah.
And we was talking about
lifestyle, society, culture.
Yeah.
Like so many different things, but then somehow we're supposed to replicate
everything, but then still have the like best bits, new bits from what we've learned from our culture.
Different things for different people, because there are definitely people our age who maybe have different priorities to us. We prioritized our
Thank you.
prioritize our career and development, education, And with that means that you kind of, I don't want to say neglect, but maybe forego or deprioritize certain things.
Yeah. It's like, isn't it Michelle Obama that was one that was like, you can have, as a woman, you can have it. You can have it all, but not all at the same time.
Yeah,
and I think also we're not only just comparing to people who are our age mates, but we're also comparing to people online. So just not even just the people who are from the exact same neighborhood as us, comparing people online, and then we happen to be comparing to people who might be in their 30s as well. Because a lot of the people that we follow, we don't know if they're in their 20s or the 30s, but we just still take them as our peers, and then feel like we're behind.
I think this concept of feeling behind is really problematic, even though I have definitely said something like that about myself in the past. But it's problematic because behind, according to what? I think it's different. Like, you're in school, there's an expectation that each year you achieve a certain thing.
But then maybe that's where we get it from school. That we have to all progress at the same thing, because to a point you're all progressing, and then that's when the kind of anxiety, depression, and whatever kicks in at uni time, because that's when now things start to shift and people start moving at different rates. Because from young,
school,
we're taught that you need to be like your age mates or better. Whenever you get some type of exam grade, your parents ask you what the other person did.
What was the highest in the class? The person that got 98. What did they do that you didn't do? Fair enough. But society has this idea or standard of when someone should go to university, then that's where that pressure comes from. I know that there's a narrative that women should try aim to get married before they reach a certain age, because maybe you become too old, you're less desirable, it's more difficult to have children, whatever. But I feel like that was applicable to like 25 years ago. Choice points. So it's either pulling you towards your desired or intended outcome, your desire, like the I'm not describing it properly. Is it pulling you towards or away from where you want to be? Is wallowing about being in your late 20s gonna help you? Is like, and that's what I was saying about realizing that, okay, if I've done things the way I've always done them, and it's not making me have greater self-love, or it's not helping me have better systems so I'm more organized, then I need to evaluate, okay, the way I'm doing things, the choices that I'm making, are they helping me and progress towards this ideal version of myself in terms of my intentions and aspirations, or is it pulling me away from that? And I feel like it's a concept from acceptance and commitment therapy. Okay. So it fits in with kind of when you're faced with unhelpful patterns of behaving and thinking, etc. You kind of evaluating, is it helpful, is it not helpful? But I think it's helpful to apply that outside of psychological difficulties and everyday decisions. Is it helpful or is it not helpful for me to rot in bed all day? Is it helpful or is it not helpful for me to stay up till 2 a.m. in the morning? Is that going to help me progress towards my intended outcome or way of being if my intention is to be diligent at work?
Interesting. And I guess that's just the anxiety, isn't it? Like, so, and the where I was asking before, like, well, are we not meant to set goals and, be bits time specific and have deadlines? Well, to a point, yes, having a bit of like haste to it or a bit of urgency is helpful to a point, but then afterwards it's actually detrimental. And it's like the stress curve, isn't it? Like a little bit of stress, yeah, it's going to achieve towards your goals, but more stress, and it's also about stressing about things that you can't control. But then these things, in terms of like milestones, maybe some people would say that it is more in your control than what you might think. And in your 20s, learning what is in my control, what is not in my control, and you're not sure about that. And it's in your 20s where now you start to deal with a little bit of things like maybe health battles or, love issues and stuff that was already kind of, and more uncertainty than all the decades beforehand.
Yeah.
So you have to even learn. So it's like a lot of learning.
A lot of learning, a lot of unlearning, because you've learned how to be a teenager. You got good at that. Then you transition into being in your early 20s. Then you settled into your early 20s. You're like, okay, I got the hang of this. And then you move into your late 20s. And I feel like even though people can say like age age shouldn't have like that much of an impact on how you navigate life or whatever. I feel like it does.
Yeah, of course it does.
And me now is very different to who I was when I was 20 or 21. My life now is very different to what my life was like. And as you progress, more responsibilities, you have to find new systems, new habits, new ways of being, new ways of thinking to consistently, like, to flexibly navigate all the different changes that come.
And that's now another thing of, is it flexibility or something? And it's like a predictor of, I swear you was doing a research on it, of like trauma and then being flexible about it and how able you're able to adapt, then it's more likely that you're gonna be affected.
Oh, right, yeah. So my study was looking at the concept of intolerance of uncertainty, which is essentially the inability or difficulty tolerating not knowing what might happen in a situation.
Wow.
So that then comes with an array of different psychological and emotional and behavioral responses to help you to manage that distress from not knowing, wow, but then also challenge that not knowing in itself. God. Right? So, and basically my study was looking at, does having higher levels of intolerance to uncertainty make you more susceptible to developing PTSD symptoms after having a stressful life event? And the answer is yes.
Because every decade that you face, you've never faced it before. And that's the first thing where you're kind of doing it by yourself, because you've kind of finished uni by your early 20s, most people. And then everything is just like, it's a free for all. So there's a lot of roadmap. There's no roadmap.
There's no like module. So in 25 you're gonna do this. 26 you're gonna do this. Yeah. And you kind of have to figure it out.
Yeah. So there's an element of freedom. It's the first time where you're actually proper free.
Yeah, but and then also fully responsible for like
consequences.
Yeah. Your decision.
What makes some people more tolerant to uncertainty than others?
I guess with intolerance of uncertainty, it's thought of as a dispositional trait. So
yeah, okay.
We're all born with. Yeah, but then life determines how. So if we think of like a bucket, right, and you can either be a little bit torn to uncertainty, or really torn to uncertainty. And if you have certain life events in your early life that create uncertainty and teach you that actually uncertainty is associated with danger, therefore when I see uncertainty, it's giving red flags, right? So say for example you have a parent who's not responsive to your needs, and you cannot predict, one day your mom comes to you and you cry, the next day she doesn't. So much uncertainty. So you decide that, okay, I know that, I'm not explaining this very well, but I know that when I feel uncertain, that means that danger. So then when you're faced with a different type of uncertainty,
okay,
even though it might be a different context, it still evokes that same sense of impending danger. And so to make yourself feel better, you might do things to seek certainty or to make yourself feel more certain.
Yeah.
And that can be like reassurance seeking, or it can be like forward planning and trying to figure out like how you can avoid, or even like avoidance as well. So I think there's I saw a TikTok recently that was like someone in their mid-20s and the different thoughts that run through their head, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna just move to Brazil. Oh, actually I wanna buy a house. No, actually I wanna live in Australia. Actually no, I need to start a family. Like that kind of pull to be adventurous and try new things, but then there's a fear of taking risks and then not being able to and maybe buy your house or have the child at the time that you want to do it, because you've now gone backpacking across Peru or something.
And in the Why Your Twenties Matter, have I told you about that book?
No, I don't think so.
It's by this like psychologist who the defining decade. Yeah. Psychologist who is like her specialty is young adults, so adults in their 20s. And she says that with your 20s you need to have the right amount of adventure, novelty seeking, and the right amount of like putting roots down. and that is what somebody makes somebody successful, rather than kind of like running away from things. A lot of people are using trouble to run away. That's
I do think though that finding that balance is so difficult because how much risk taking is too much risk taking, and how much putting your roots down is you settling and not being adventurous. And I suppose that's where values really come in. What are your key values? Because I feel like if you don't know what your values are, how do you know what direction you want your life to go in? If if your top value is like family, then does that mean that you want to start a family sooner than, and you prioritize that above travel? If your value is being adventurous or exploring yourself or understanding yourself better, what does that then mean? Not to say that you can't pursue all those things at the same time, but I think knowing your values can help you understand how to prioritize certain things, certain aspirations, and then that can help you plan. So I always knew that my biggest value was biggest value in terms of like personal development was establishing my career. So I prioritized being in university, doing well at university, getting good work experience, doing my doctorate. I prioritized that above most things that didn't kind of were not as important to me in terms of the grand scheme of things. Do you get what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's now that I've achieved something, it's kind of been down prioritized slightly or deprioritized slightly so that other things can take precedence. Because there's a time for everything.
Yeah, there's a season for everything. And you need to think like, what do I really want in this season? But then at the same time, it seems like it's like in our 20s where maybe this is where the pressure comes from because we're picking up things that we are told are for life, like partners, houses, careers. Yeah.
That's the thing I was saying to someone the other day, that how ridiculous is it that we tell 17, 18-year-olds that this career that you're putting down on your UCAS is that's it for life. Like there's no room to pivot, no room to explore. It's all over, Jackie. But like there's no room to pivot. Like we're not taught that it's okay to pivot. It's okay to dash something and try something different. And that's why I quite like that book, The Pathless Path, because there is no
there are no rules.
There are no rules.
Yeah, no. Today when we saw that person doing the sand sculpture, like when people go to another country learn to scuba, like or teach scuba diving, teach English, like you can do anything you want. Really.
Absolutely, and you don't know where that can take you. Like I have a really lovely friend, and when we finished our undergrad, she moved to Paris to work as a teacher. I think like she was teaching English. We learned French in like 3 months. Now she like met her partner and she lives there now, and like her French is amazing. But like you just don't know what like being adventurous can bring your way. But yeah,
and that's one thing as well. I saw a TikTok the other day, and it was like she was being asked about her having children, and like they were like, oh, how do you know that you wanted to have children? Yeah, and she was like, I just made the decision to have children and I'm happy with this life, but I would have equally as been happy if I didn't have children as well. I strongly believe that in this life, like there's hardly ever rights or wrongs. There's the decisions that we make and then we live with them, and we don't have to live with them for ages. Not all decisions we have to live with for so long. We live with them for a prescribed amount of time, and if we remember that, then we can put less pressure on ourselves, because then otherwise every decision is like happy, or it's like such a gravitas when it's most things are not that deep.
It's true, but I think her saying though that she would have been happy either way is a reflection of her relationship with herself, because or a reflection of her of how she chooses to navigate life.
Yeah. Because should is not helpful.
It's not helpful. But if you could have, you would have, but you haven't, and here is where you are. You have a choice. Do I accept where I am right now, or do I sit and wallow and be sad? Is being sad and wallowing in that helping you to progress, or is it making you stay stuck?
And more time, again, the relationship with self as to whether you're happy or not. Sometimes I feel like people stay in toxic situations so that they have a reason to externalize their sadness onto. I'm a sad and
people stay in toxic situations to externalize their sadness.
Yeah.
So they can blame you for it.
So they can blame that situation for their sadness. I'm always catty and stressed and stuff like that. I hate my job. I'm always complaining about my job. Leave the job then. No, I'm not gonna leave the job. Why not? When you think about it, why not? It's because, and then if you would find that you would leave that job, you'd still be a cat. You'd still be a ratty, distressed person.
I get what you mean, because it's a choice, and you can choose to make the most of the situation that you're in, or you can choose to complain about it. And I'm not saying that there are not crap situations. I'm sorry, I could leave my job, or I could talk to my manager or whatever. I don't want to do those things. Okay, so I've chosen not to do those things. What can I now do that is helping me proceed towards the path or the way of living that I want to live? Am I enjoying living in misery, being grumpy? Because we spend so much time at work as well.
Situation, yeah, exactly. And it's again the relationship that you have with yourself, because okay, cool, if you're in a crappy job, but you know that right now you need to be in there because of XYZ, then stay in a crappy job, but then mindset shift of not complaining and being like, you know, the reason why you're there,
the purpose
of you being there.
Yeah, the majority of crap situations in life have something that to teach us, or there's something that we can learn from it that either help us develop ourselves or help us to be able to navigate future situations. And sometimes focusing on something productive is more helpful than staying stuck in the negative emotions that situation brings. Not to say you should not address or validate or acknowledge the feelings that situation brings. You should.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Though I remember when I was 19, I cried so much before my 20th birthday.
Really?
Like the night before, I was like, I'm basically like ancient. Because I felt so afraid or anxious. And again, it's that uncertainty. Like I would close my eyes and I can't envision what my life would look like, because I knew I had all of these goals, but the timeline of it was so uncertain and so unclear. Plus the pressure of being an adult, which at 20, yeah, you're an adult, but please, you're still a baby. But like no longer being a teenager, no longer having the cover of, oh, she's just a teenager, like it's okay. Like it was scary. Like,
I'm landing back. I'm landing. I'm saying my prayer. Nobody's.
It was scary, and I felt nervous, and so I don't think it's necessarily just about 30 and like the everything that's attached to it. I think it's also just that feeling of, okay, you're transitioning to a new decade of life, and that decade is very close to 40, which is also very close to 50. So it's like you're getting older.
Something about transitions.
Yeah.
And transitions bringing anxiety rather than excitement. But I always say that, like,
but they can coexist.
Yeah. So they're both adrenaline.
And I think they're both valid. You can feel anxious, uncertain, unsure, but you can also embrace the excitement. I think the beauty of uncertainty as well. Like that's an adventure. Like I don't know what the rest of this year is going to look like. I don't know what like life is going to look like by the time I get to 30.
Watch this back, we're in a pandemic. We predicted it.
There's beauty on uncertainty, and again, it's about how you frame it. That sense of you're transitioning to new phase of life that will bring new things. That will. It's a new stage that will involve, if you want to get married, marriage. That will might involve marriage, might involve having kids, might involve settling down, might involve advancements in your career, becoming more senior, or pivoting and trying completely new different things.
So yeah, basically just like embrace life, go with the flow, and just think about your tolerance to uncertainty, whether you see it as anxiety inducing or excitement inducing, and just whenever you feel something like, is it pushing you towards the person you want to be and towards the life that you want, or is it pushing you away? So that was an interesting conversation about basically like comparison, staying in your own lane, kind of like not trying to tell the future. Because they say that like anxiety is living in the future, depression is living in the past, and what you need to do is live in the present. Thank you so much for coming on to Comment below if you have any questions for her. I'll be asking her. She is a qualified clinical psychologist, so she knows it all.
No, not all. Just so.
If you like this video, like it, comment down below any questions that you have, and subscribe so you can join the gang and see the next one. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.